as a kid growing up, being part of an Indian family, one of the things that I've always wanted is a miniature of the Taj Mahal. So when my family and we visited India when I was in high school, we took the opportunity to drive out to Agra from New Delhi, which is about a 6-hour drive, to see the Taj Mahal. And while there, we took the opportunity to go to one of the boutique shops to see what our options are. So I walk in, and there's a lot of different sizes of different miniature Taj Mahals. And so the gentleman that's behind the counter, he pulls one out and he places it down on the counter for me to see. So my dad and I were looking at it. It looks really good. And then we expressing concern, hey, we're not sure if it's going to survive the trip either back to New Delhi or back to the US through the airplane. So the gentleman, he takes the dome and he goes. So I said, we'll take two. And so he packages in the box, and and after that, we drive 6 hours back to New Delhi. And I'm all excited. I want to show my mom exactly what we got. We open up the box, and to our disappointment, the whole thing's in shambles. Turns out the whole thing was made of plaster, and the only thing that's still in one piece is the dome. Later we find out that's actually the case with all the tourists that go to Agra, and all of those places, they're always scamming people. Now, in contrast to this experience, a few years ago, my wife and I were walking in the mall, and as we passed one of the stores, one of the gentlemen that's in front of that store, he says, "Come on in, try some of this great tasting, delicious tea." And I'm like, sure. So we tried, and it tasted great. And then he brings us in, would you like to try to sample some more? And so we go in and we sample some more tea, and then he shows us some of the porcelain pots and some of the cast iron pots, and he's telling us a story behind it, and then he brings us to some more tea. And then after that, he brings us to the counter, and he asks me, which of the teas did you like? And I said, I like that first one that we sampled. And so he brings out, now there's another gentleman behind the counter, and there's a whole bunch of buckets, and pulls one out, and he opens the lid, and he starts pushing the air towards me, and he tells me, take a whiff, and I take a breath, and it smelled great. I could smell the cinnamon, I could smell the cardamom, and I never really appreciated tea, even though growing up in an Indian family, tea is part of the culture, to serve it with everything, but I never appreciated it until that day. And then after that, he gives it to us, and he offers it. Well, how much would you like? I'm like, well, I'm not sure. And he said, well, how about a pound? You can save some money if you take home a pound. I'm like, I don't know about a pound. So a half a pound, quarter. Actually, ended up walking out with a quarter pound and a cup of tea to go. But while I was there, my wife was with me. He was like, do you have any coffee? And he says, no, we only serve teas. You want coffee? Go to Starbucks. And ironically, now this tea store is called Tivana, and this tea store, ironically, was bought by Starbucks for $600 million a little while ago, maybe a few months ago. Now, the key thing here that I'm putting forth is the power of focused demonstration that's rooted in a particular strength. And I believe a lot of our communities, especially masajid and whatnot, can benefit from being able to distinguish themselves from each other. Now, the reason I believe that this is very, very important is because the children of the people who established these communities, they are between the ages of 16 and 35, which is what you would consider, and which is what marketers and researchers call the millennial generation. And there's a key trait among the millennial generation, and that key trait is that they are brand agnostic. They do not have much loyalty to any particular type of product or whatnot because of the abundance of options that we have today. Now, when it comes to the Muslim community, we have this challenge as well, because in the major cities, you don't have just one masjid anymore. You have several options. And so how do you get the loyalty and the trust and the engagement of such millennial Muslims? And the key thing is to distinguish oneself and root one's demonstration and one's engagement with the rest of the community and the millennial Muslims in a particular strength. So in the case of Tivana, they said, we do not serve coffee, our strength is tea. You want coffee, you go to Starbucks. And Starbucks, they will serve tea, but their thing is about concoctions and all these other things and just being able to sit down and have, and their strength is real estate. And that's why they bought Tivana, so they can have more real estate. And so and the whole thing here is that I believe our communities, if there's multiple masajid or whatnot, work to cooperatively cooperatively distinguish each other, just as a Chipotle will distinguish itself from an IHOP. You know, if you will go to Chipotle, you tell them you want pancakes, they'll tell you get out of here. We serve burritos. You want burritos? We'll give you the best burrito. However, you go to IHOP and you ask them for a burrito, they'll be like, no, you get pancakes here. So it's the key thing with the masjid, and I think this will also help build trust within masajid as well. And I want to end with one key thing. When I remember I used to, outside of college, after I graduated high school, I got into sales. And one of the companies I was working for was a sales company in which they did door-to-door sales for Verizon. And one of the accounts, and I remember that I sold it to, was an elderly gentleman. And this gentleman, after we filled out all the paperwork, in the end he says, you know what, I like you, but I want to give you some sincere advice. I'm like, sure, absolutely, go ahead. And he says, I've been in sales my entire life. I'm retired now. However, just make sure that whomever you work for, whomever you represent, whomever you speak for, that they can deliver on the promise in which you say that they will deliver on. Because if you don't, then those people, their reputation is going to suffer, and your reputation will as well. Thing is, we as Muslims are part of Muslim communities, and there are a lot of promises that Muslim communities make. Let us work towards getting these communities, getting these organizations to focus in on a particular strength, and as we represent them, we can be sure that they can deliver on those promises because we know it is what they're strong at. I conclude with that.